Prophecy, in proportion to your faith. Service or ministry, in serving. He who teaches, in his teaching. Be a teacher. This is something that God had to deliver me from, free me up. See, in the black church, all we get is preaching. And so for a very long time, I was desirous to preach. And God said, no, that's not who I called you to be. And he had to help me to understand, in teaching, preach. No. In teaching, teach. So in teaching, he who teaches in his teaching, he who exhorts, there's a gift of exhortation. He who exhorts in exhortation. He who gives in liberality. He who leads, that word lead is also elsewhere translated as, well, I'll go into that in a moment. He who leads with diligence. He who shows mercy with cheerfulness. And so in that reading we have the 7 gifts that were granted to us, gifted to the body of Christ by our God and Father. Prophesying, serving, teaching, exhorting. We'll talk about what some of these words mean in a moment. Exhorting, giving, leading, and showing mercy. Not having mercy, showing mercy. There's a lot of stuff we have, but it doesn't mean anything until you get it. Right. That's why one translation said, by this shall men know that you are my disciples, when you have love one to another. And then another translation said, one for another. I said, I prefer 2. Because you can have a whole lot of love for me, but until it actually gets transferred, it's not doing me much good. Toward. So let's back up here and let's look at each of these individual prophecies. Now, what you're going to discover later on is that there are 2 gifts that span multiple categories. Teaching is one. You have the gift here of teaching, the Father's gift of teaching, but you also have the fivefold or the ascension office of the teacher. And technically, I'll talk about this when I talk about the gifts of the Son next week, God willing. Technically, they're not offices. But we'll deal with why they're not a little later. But with those 5 focus, the gift of teaching is also the office or the position, if you will, of teacher. But here, very interesting. Apparently, God has called us to be prophetic people because prophecy spans all 3. There is a gift of prophecy given by the Spirit. As we see here, there's a gift of prophecy given by the Father. And then there's also the ministry, as he called it in 1 Corinthians, the ministry of the prophet that is given by the Son. Now, one of the mistakes that people make is they assume that when they see the word prophecy, it's referring to the same thing. I would think that there's not a need for the Father to duplicate what the Spirit has already given, or for the Spirit to duplicate what the Father has already given. That says to me that even though it's the same type of ministry, prophetic ministry, there's a difference in how it's expressed or how it's given forth. Okay? And one of the cues or the keys to understanding this difference is in how Paul told these people to operate in their gift. It's very interesting that when you talk about teaching, that the one who teaches in his teaching, one who gives in his liberality, one who does this, he's talking about the same kind of thing that you're doing. But when he talked about prophecy, he didn't just say the one who prophesies in his prophesying. He said the one who prophesies in proportion to his faith. Now, there's a wonderful thing about this. Whereas it does take a degree of faith to move in the Spirit's gift of prophecy, that's more about obedience. Opening your mouth and speaking forth that which the Lord deposited in you to share. But now the Father's gift, and here's where the difference is. The Father's gift, this is going to sound really bad when I say it, but you all come with me. You all know every time I sound like a heretic, I fix it, right? Just stay with me. The Father's gift was put inside of you to flow out from you. Okay, let me put it this way. Does a giver need an unction to give? It's not a trick question now. They're like, he asks these trick questions sometimes. So let me just tell you, a giver doesn't need an unction to give. That's who they are. Right. If you are a giver, you don't have to wait on the Holy Spirit to tell you. No, that's what you do. We'll talk about that in a moment. Right? If you are a teacher, you just teach. If you are an exhorter, you just exhort. See, these gifts are effects, doings. You don't sit back and wait. You do because it's who you are.
Yes, natural.
Prophecy, the Father's gift of prophecy, is not waiting on a word from the Lord to give to the people. See, that's the Spirit speaking.
You gotta teach.
The Father's gift of prophecy. Watch this now. Okay, let me break this all the way back to the beginning. The text says in the book of Revelation, in fact, let me just give the passage. Revelation 19 verse 10. You don't have to turn there. Revelation 19 verse 10, it says this, that the testimony of Jesus Christ is the spirit of prophecy. The spirit of prophecy, the core of it, the essence of prophecy, is the testimony of Jesus. Right? Here's the question. Who is Jesus? He's the Son, but he's also what? In the beginning was the Word. The Word became flesh and built the mother. So Jesus is the Word. The Son is the Word. Right? The essence of prophetic ministry is creation. The essence of prophecy is creative power. Let me break down. The spirit of prophecy, the essence of it, is the testimony of the Word. What is the Word? Creative power. First, in the Gospel of John, chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, and with God, the Word was God. I forget what verse 2 said. Verse 3. Verse 3 said, without him, nothing was made that was made. Without who? The Word. Why not? Because Hebrews, by faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the Word. Right? Amen. So the Word is the creative power of God that actually causes that which be not to be. He speaketh those things that be not as though they were. And when he speaks it, it becomes, because when he speaks is word, and word is creation. The first words we find God speaking were creative words. Let there be. Because everything he speaks becomes. That's why you don't find him spending a whole lot of time focusing on what he is. If you are being beat down in your failings and your failures, you ain't nothing, you keep messing up, that's not the Lord talking. That's right. Why? Because he doesn't have to speak what is. He speaks what is not. That's right. You are powerful and you are anointed. And what exists already exists. It doesn't need his voice. But word is creative power. And the spirit of prophecy is the Word. So prophetic ministry then is creative power. That means that when we're prophesying according to our faith, what he's talking about is having an ability inside of you to speak creative words according to your faith. Not according to your obedience, as though you have to get it from the Lord. According to your faith. That means that like God, the one with the gift of prophecy opens up their mouth and speaks life into dry or dead situations. So, such that, let me kind of give you an example. Try to give you an example. So, earlier today, Deacon Cheryl made a statement about walking in her gift. Okay? I, as one who holds or walks in the Father's gift of prophecy, can speak to her and say to her, you have the courage in the name of Jesus to be everything that he's told you to be. And you will no longer fear. You see what I'm saying? I see there's a deficit there. And I can create by the power of my words that which does not exist or which is struggling to come into being. That's creative prophetic. Let me give you an example. You ever heard about how civil rights leaders have been called prophets to a generation? And Martin Luther King was a prophet. Okay? That wasn't the Spirit's gift of prophecy. But he was able to speak to a generation about where we're going. Now, I have a dream today.
Yes.
Right? So that's the Father's gift of prophecy, whereby we're able to speak creatively to cause a thing to come to pass. Now, let me make sure that I don't lead you all astray. All prophetic ministry is done for three purposes. Edification, I'll give you the definitions of these words in a moment. Exhortation, and comfort. If what you are speaking is not to the end of edifying, which means strengthening, exhorting, which means encouraging, and comforting, keep your mouth shut. Because that's where you tap into, that's where you begin to fall into witchcraft. You're not casting spells, you're speaking life. All right? Now, let me just give you these passages for your notes so you can read them at home. Revelation 19:10, testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Who is Jesus? He's the Word. John 1, verse 3. The Word is creative. Hebrews 11, verse 3. The worlds were framed by the Word. Hebrews 11, verse 3. And of course, then, Genesis 1. It's verse 2 and verse 3. Genesis 1, verse 3, where he speaks the first words, and they are indeed created. Now, prophecy is only and ever done for the purposes of exhortation, edification, exhortation, and comfort. That is 1 Corinthians 14, verse 3. 1 Corinthians 14, verse 3. We generally tend to confuse prophecy with psychic phenomena. But prophecy isn't, there is an element of it, but prophecy isn't just foretelling. It's also forth-telling.
Yes.
What's forth? Speaking forth. Which is what I just described. Okay? We good with prophecy now?
Amen.
Prophesy in proportion to your faith. Well, Pastor, I don't have any. Well, get into the Word and get some. Because faith comes by hearing. You want to be able to speak a bigger thing in somebody's life? Get more faith. Now, do only givers give? No. So I don't want you to think when you leave this place, well, if I don't have the Father's gift of prophecy, I can't speak into somebody's life. Who said it? So only those with the gift of giving get up doing tithes and offering? No. You still have the same kingdom inside of you. You still have the same spirit inside of you. And you still have the authority of heaven itself backing you up.
Yes, yes.
Okay? So I never want anybody to think that we're limiting the operation of these things to those who have a specific gift. But that we all can tap into the resources given by God. The second ministry, the second effect, the second function. I like that word function. I like that word operation because it describes, this is how the church is supposed to operate. This is how we're supposed to be about doing the work of the kingdom. So that means when these things are not in operation, we're lacking something. Can I speak to the cessationist movement? The cessationists are people who think that supernatural ministries or gifts of God have ceased in their operation. That is a lie. The reason it is alive is because he gave these gifts for our building up and for our operation and function and to be who he told us to be. If they no longer exist, then we're no longer being who he wants us to be. We are now handicapped because we don't have the tools that he left us to get the job done. How many churches are handicapped? Forget the physical realm. We need spiritual realms just to get people in the door. Because we have cut ourselves off at the knees because we refuse to operate in the presence that he's given us. All right. Ministry, service. In 1 Corinthians 12, verse 28, 1 Corinthians 12, verse 28, he also calls this helps. Okay? Same ministry, just using a different word. But it's someone who has the word ministry means service. A minister is a servant. So then the person who's gifted with ministry has a passion to serve. Has a servant's heart. I think it's a very, and I meant to mention this earlier, these gifts that are given by the Father are oftentimes called, what's the word? Motivational gifts. Motivational gifts. Personally, even though that certainly is a good word to use, I like the word passion gifts. Because they demonstrate that they come from a place of passion in us. So it's like, I don't know why I'm so passionate. This is just who I am. Maybe you have to be understanding. You don't just stir this up. This is who you are. And you have a passion for these things. You can't make somebody a servant. We've seen a lot of pastors try that.
That's true.
But if somebody has a servant's heart, they almost need somebody else to protect them because they're always looking for somewhere to serve them and for someone to serve because they just have a servant's heart. Mm-hmm. They're not wrong. It just needs to be channeled properly. Okay? So the ministry, the person who gets the ministry, a passion for service, a passion for support. One of the other translations is for this word is relief. Relief. This is somebody who is burdened with a desire to ease somebody else's burden. Let me just help you. I can't see that there's a need and not be moved to try to feel it. Because I have a servant's heart. Okay? And that's God's gift of ministry. The next one is teaching. Teaching isn't just having a Sunday school lesson. Anybody can open up what they call those books that everybody uses in Sunday school, the traditional church. What they call them? No, they have this. It's a particular book that everybody buys. That book for the Sunday school class. Baptist, you know books. I can't even think what it's called. We used to use them at the trial. What are they called?
Sunday school book.
Yeah, Sunday school book. It's a particular like brand. I forget what it's called. But anyway, teaching. It's more than just reading a book. Anybody can teach from a book. That's why sometimes I'm like, what? You went to college for 6 years just to do that? If you teach from a book, anybody can do that. A teacher, though, has a special, see, there's one thing to share information. There's another thing to teach. A teacher has an ability to cause that which is being taught to actually come alive to the person. To become more than just data, but to actually, they help the person wrap their mind around it. See, anybody can give you the multiplication table and show you 2 times 6 equals 12. But a teacher helps you understand why. Helps you understand how it works, not just that it works. And unfortunately, with public education today, we have a lot of givers of information, but not many teachers. And here's the thing. You don't have, we see these as gifts of the Father, so we immediately isolate them to a church context. If you are a teacher, you're just a teacher. It doesn't necessarily have to be within the church. You can be using your gift in the school system because you're a teacher. A giver doesn't just give to the church. I know when they teach it, that's all they talk about because they want you to give to the church. But when you are a real giver, you're just giving to people whenever you see need because it's in you to give. Am I getting to the next one already? Yeah. But the whole point is a teacher teaches. Anything. That means what? In order to teach it, they have to know it.
That's right.
That means a teacher has passion for knowledge. Not just knowledge, but understanding. Because I can't impart to you what I don't understand myself. A teacher. The gift of teaching. Exhortation. To exhort means to encourage. It means to lift up. I think about David being talk about being in this horrible pit. And God, lifted him up out of the pit, out of the miry clay. I want you to think about a pit of despair. The one with the gift of exhortation can lift people out of a pit of confusion and despair and depression and anxiety and fear and all of that. Because they have this unique ability to stir the life. They have a unique, this is a good way to put it, they have a unique ability to fan the flame that is almost gone out. That's a special gift, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care how old you are. I don't care how many titles you have. There are times when you need your fan flame.
Yes.
Find you an exhorter.
Oh, yes. Woo.
Who can lift you up. Who can speak life to you. Oftentimes people confuse exhortation with the function of preaching. Because so often we kind of make them all the same thing. They're technically not the same thing, but what we do often find are that good preachers, the people that we personally view as being good, are exhorters. And oftentimes what they're doing, rather than actually preaching, is exhorting. And sadly, we don't really know the difference, but there is this gift of exhortation that enables people to lift people up. In fact, someone who is a preacher could really have their ministry enhanced by having the gift of exhortation. Okay? Giving. Givers are people who are passionate. I like this. Givers are people who are filled up by pouring out. When you are fulfilled by giving, most people are fulfilled by receiving. But a giver, it's like, we talk about how our pocket, we have money, our pocket, our head is itching. We just have to spend it. Well, a giver is like, I just have to give it. They get a bonus at work, and they're online looking for a nonprofit to donate some money to. They're just a giver. I'm like, come to the church. But just a giver. And one of the reasons that not all of these are special, but just from a practical perspective, one of the reasons that givers are such a blessing to the church is because, unfortunately, many churches are struggling so much financially. For this reason or that, there are many reasons why that happens. But so many are struggling. And so, what unfortunately winds up happening is that churches begin, excuse the parlance, but I'm going to use this word. Churches begin raping the congregation financially in order to survive, in order to stay afloat. We're taking up 6 or 7 offerings. We have a line for the $1,000 crowd, a line for the $100 crowd, a line for the $50 crowd, right? Because we want to tickle all the people who want to be seen again. So we're doing all of this in order to manipulate and encourage people to give. But man, when you have givers in the congregation, you don't need to go into all of that. Because God has already gifted the body with people who love to give. And you don't have to force people who don't want to give. Because there's never lack when there are givers. But I don't know, Pastor, sometimes the giver is broke. Let me fix it. God gives seed to the sower and bread for food. Now, givers may come into some hard times, But God always blesses givers with more to give. Why? Because he can trust them with it. So a good gift to God. Leadership. Leadership. Now what's very interesting is, this is also mentioned over in 1 Corinthians 12. But he uses the word administrations when talking about it there. But what he's talking about, and in fact, one of the other translations for this is government. Government. The word actually means a person who steers a ship, with the connotation of one who brings it into port during a storm. One who knows how to give direction, how to look at chaos and give order to it. Not a controller, not a dictator, but a leader. And there's a difference.
Yes.
There are people that God the Father has given to the church with the special ability to set things in order and to get everybody on the same page and headed in the same direction. A gift of governance, a gift of leading, a gift of setting course, leadership or administration. Mercy. Mercy. I strive not to be one who puts gifts on people and I let them figure out for themselves what gifts they have. But I have to tell you, Mother Trout has the gift of mercy.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes it gets on my ever-loving nerve. But mercy.
Yes. Yes.
Another word for mercy you can think about, compassion.
Yes. Yes.
Mercy is someone who bleeds for the hurt.
Yes.
You know, the passage talks about rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. Mercy can't stay in place when someone else is out of place.
That's right.
There's some stirring. There's some, what Paul talks about, these bowels of compassion, these way down in your knower. These bowels of mercy and compassion, they have you stirred. Now here's what happens with a mercy. See, many of these people who operate in these gifts, they need a counterbalance. Because givers can get taken advantage of.
Right.
Merciful people can be taken advantage of.
Yes.
Because when people find out that you have a gift of compassion or mercy, don't think for a minute they won't use you as their savior to come to their rescue. No longer will they take full responsibility for their choices because they know that the merciful will fix it. So what I say to those with mercy is strive to maintain a healthy balance such that mercy is not just doing for, but mercy, kind of like exhorting, is helping to lift up. It's kind of like the difference between feed the poor and Paul saying that the one that, what does it say? If the man does not work, neither should he eat. See, that's balance. Because I'm not going to empower you in your poverty to stay poor because you know you can always come to me to get fed. I'm not really helping you. I'm actually enabling you. So there has to be a balance between I'm going to help you while you're helping yourself. And when you stop helping yourself, find somewhere else to eat. See, the church don't like to hear that, especially like those of us who like lean way over, we have bleeding hearts. Because we don't know that there is a difference between enabling and empowering.
Yes. That's true.
God wants us to empower people to be better than they are. Don't you dare see somebody in that state and leave them there. Empower them to improve. But if all I do is ever feed you, I'm not actually helping you change your state. And God loves us enough, too much, in fact, to just, quote unquote, take care of us. He's given us too many gifts and abilities to do for ourselves, to just sit back and say, okay, God, you do it. God loves you all more than I can even say. I bet you he won't make up your bed. Now, if you can't, he just might do it. But when you can, I do not like the phrase, God helps those who help themselves. I do not like that phrase. Number one, it's not biblical in terms of, in Scripture. But there is an element. There's an element of truth to it. It's not fully true. Because many of us have found ourselves in situations that were of our own making, and he still came to our rescue. See, that's called grace.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So I'm not going to use that statement, but there is an element of truth that we ought to take advantage of the blessings that God has given us. That ties perfectly into this point. All of these gifts are blessings or gifts that God has given us to be who he's calling us to be. But it will not have full effect until, number one, we become aware of what he's gifted us with. And number two, we take ownership of it. I own the fact that I'm a teacher. Have not always been able to do that because I was trying too hard to be a preacher, trying to duplicate what I saw. But now I own the fact that I'm a teacher. And in owning who I am, I have been released to actually do what the whole purpose of the gift was. We saw in 1 Corinthians the gifts were given for the profit of all. And now you all can benefit from my teaching because I'm not trying to be what I'm not. So it's not, see, if I'm trying to preach because I want to be something else, I'm making my gift about me. My gift was not given to me, but for you. Your gift was not given. Out of all 21 gifts, 21 spiritual gifts, 9 by the Spirit, 5 by the Son, 7 by the Father. Out of all 21 of them, none of them were given for the gifted. They were all given for everybody else. And so I don't have to prostitute my gift for my gain if I'm already a recipient of the gifts inside of you all. It's kind of like a marriage. I don't have to make it all about me. But if I don't take care of somebody, got to take care of me. If I don't take care of me, nobody will take care of me. But you're usually a married person. Your job is to see about their need and their happiness. And their job is to see about yours. You can release and you can give yourself to this person you love when you can trust that they're giving themselves to you. So that which you want to be taken care of, you know will be because somebody else is seeing about you. But the moment you stop seeing about them and start seeing about you, they can no longer see about you because you're seeing about yourself. And now they have to see about them because now they're not going to get what they need for them because you're not seeing about them, you're seeing about you. So what happens is you create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Marriage works the way it does in the same way that the church is intended to work the way it does. That we are supposed to be using our gifts for somebody else's benefit. When the church works together like that, in fact, in talking about the gifts of the Son, Paul gave a perfect teaching. Ephesians 4, and I'll close on this reading. Ephesians 4, verse 13 or maybe 14. Ephesians 4. So he says this. He gave, the Son gave his gifts until we all, verse 13, until we all attain to the unity of the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God. We'll talk about this in more detail next week. To a mature man, to the measure of the stature which belongs to the fullness of Christ. Now, as a result of this, as a result of us functioning and operating in these gifts, we will no longer be children. We are no longer to be children, tossed here and there, to and fro, by waves, carried about by every wind of doctrine, by the trickery of men, by craftiness and deceitful scheming. But speaking the truth, it's actually verse 16. Speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in all aspects. We're growing up into Him. We literally become Him, who is the head, even Christ. Now, verse 16. Christ, from whom the whole body, everyone having different gifts, not having the same gifts, but yet the whole body, like a puzzle, is fitted and held together, because every joint is supplying in accordance with the gift that was given them. How Paul said, according to that gift that was given him. The one who teaches in his teaching. The one who gives in his giving. Every joint has a function, an operation. And when we are all doing our part, the whole body is able to move in sync and actually make things happen, because the hand is not trying to be an ear. And the ear is not trying to be an eye. And the eye is not trying to be a foot. And everybody trying to be the head. Right? Because we all have our functions. And we begin to own, watch this now, love this word, and celebrate who He gifted us to be. Because we begin to realize our worth to the kingdom. I have a unique and a valuable part to play. And I don't have time to be anybody else. So God, if you need an ear, and the church doesn't have an ear, then you need to send us an ear. Because I have to be who you told me to be. Because if I try to be an ear now, then the arm that I'm supposed to be is now messed up. And not because I'm not being the arm, the hand and the fingers can't do what they're supposed to do. Because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. Over here trying to do it. You see what I'm saying? When the whole body is joined together, working together, nobody's in competition with each other, we all see that we all have equal value. There may be parts that are out and exposed, and parts that are covered up. But we all still are serving a purpose. This might be exposed and get a lot of attention, but without this in here beating, none of this would work. So there are some well-oiled machines on the inside parts that we don't see and don't often, this is Paul talking about in 1 Corinthians 12, that we don't often give praise to like we do the preaching. But they are still vital to the function of the church. Yes. And we have to start honoring everybody for the gifts that they bring to the body. Amen. And when we do that, talk about Great Commission. We will be fulfilling it. We have the ability to do it. He would not have given it to us if we couldn't do it. He's given us a commission.